All right, Coach, you are the head men's basketball coach at LeMoyne-Owen College. What were kind of the thoughts and emotions just about getting your opportunity to be a head coach at the collegiate level?
Gratefulness, I'm thankful to my Lord and Savior. Obviously, I'm not here because of what I've been able to accomplish. I think it has a small part in it, the successes and the talents that I've been blessed with. But I think more so than anything, man, just God's grace and God's blessings has afforded me to be in this position.
What drew you to LeMoyne-Owen, and then separately, kind of how did you pitch yourself to be the head coach here?
I mean, the one thing that I could probably say that drew me here was the challenge. I looked at it as a challenge. I think LeMoyne-Owen basketball has a certain type of stigma that it has over the years, and one that hasn't always been positive or looked at it in a decent or good way. And so I looked at it as a challenge for myself to go in and create some magic, not to play on words, but to create some magic and try to accomplish some things that haven't ever been done in this school as it pertains to the basketball program. When
you say it has a stigma, what does that kind of mean? And I guess kind of give people an introduction to what LeMoyne-Owen College basketball is, what level you guys compete at, and then where you guys compete in terms of conferences and stuff like that.
I mean, if you can go as far as back as Coach Jerry Johnson, who's a legend, not just in Memphis or Lemoyne, but in the game of basketball itself. And I think they had some prominent, really great years under his leadership as the coach here. And then obviously, followed it up with Coach Anderson, who's the AD now, has some really good years. But I think over the past few, there's been some hard times. Obviously, I think Bonzi did a tremendous job. But, collectively, I think there's been some difficult times that this program has had to face. And there's been some things that has, prevented the program, I think, from having some real success. And I think President Davis is moving in the right direction by the things that he's told me. And from what I can see, his vision and the innovative mindset that he has, I think great and better days are ahead for LeMoyne-Owen basketball program, but also for the institution as a whole. And you guys, again, what level do you guys compete at? For those who are unfamiliar, you guys are an HBCU in the SIAC or the SIAC. Kind of explain what those things mean to people who may not be as familiar with those things. Sure. Well, I think, it's very well known that HBCUs are, a big influence on our culture. But Lemoyne is the 5th oldest HBCU in the country. And again, that is a tremendous honor. But we're a Division II school. We compete on the Division II level in the SIAC, and it's a competitive league. As a matter of fact, I met some of the coaches on yesterday at the conference meeting, and I'm excited about the season. I'm excited about the opportunity. But I'm also excited about the guys that I'm going to go up against, because there's some phenomenal coaches in this conference. And they do a great job, and so I'm excited about where we are in terms of our recruiting, the type of players that I've been able to get in contact with and communicate with, and some too who have commit the past few weeks. So I'm excited about it. So, and you are an HBCU grad yourself. You went to Mississippi Valley State, right? What does it mean to you to have played at that level and now be able to coach at a level? And does it help you to relate to some of these guys that you are recruiting and hopefully coaching? Absolutely, because it's kind of like full circle for me, right? I played at Mississippi Valley, had a tremendous opportunity to go to the NCAA tournament and play against Georgetown, who at that time had Allen Iverson in 1996. And now look at me years later, I've coached in the SEC for a great guy by the name of Jerry Stackhouse, who gave me my opportunity. I think I owe everything, a debt of gratitude to him. He's kind of the genesis of my college career, and I learned so much from him. And then obviously having the opportunity to come back home and work with a friend of mine, Penny Hardaway, and we were able to accomplish some great things together. And, he taught me a lot of things as well. And so, I think that all plays into the part of me being able to reach these kids and let them know that, hey, I come from an HBCU, but look what that education and that institution afforded me to be in positions, to be in rooms, and to be in places that, normally I wouldn't be able to be. And so, it's not where you are at the particular time, it's the journey that you take to get there. And I'm so grateful and thankful that I was able to experience an HBCU. And I'm also grateful and thankful that the Lord has blessed me to be in a position to make a really good living out of this game of basketball. And I'm just trying to pay it forward to some young people that I can come in contact with throughout the next few years or however long I'm here. And you've really coached at quite literally every level. You started at the AAU level with Penny Hardaway, before coaching at high school level, before getting to the college ranks. What has each level of basketball kind of taught you? And then we'll kind of get into your relationships that have developed out of them then. I started from elementary school. It was an elementary school here in Memphis at Levi Elementary, which is on 3rd. By the principal by the name of Ava Taylor gave me my first opportunity as an educator. And I'm so thankful to her for believing in me and taking a chance on a college graduate who was rough around the edges. And then I took that opportunity and went to Lanier Middle School, which is here in Memphis, for Dr. Terrence Brown, the late Dr. Terrence Brown, God bless his soul in heaven. And then obviously I was able to go to Ridgeway Middle. That's where the success started to kind of happen for me. I won some state championships there, coached some great kids who are, great human beings to this day. And then obviously, the rest is history, as they say. I went to Mitchell and won some state championships there back to back and turned that program around and kind of did the same thing at Whitehaven. And so all of those opportunities and experiences has afforded me to be in this position. And again, it's not because of who I am. I coach for a living, but it's not who I am. I coach, to make money. I coach to help young people, but I am a follower of my servant, Jesus Christ, like never before. And so that's who I am. That's who I am. That's what I'm about. But, again, he's put me in a position to have some success, to live a life that I could only imagine and dream of, and I'm just, again, trying to pay it forward.
How much does faith play a role in a journey like yours? So many athletes will say, they lean on their Lord Jesus Christ. How much does your faith really is something that you have to rely on in order to continue to grow and to get to places like here?
It's everything for me, It's who I am, It's a big part of, me being a man and having my wife to understand that, hey, she has a godly husband. My children being an example to them as well. So it's everything, it's everything that I am about. It's every fabric of my being. And I don't take that for granted. And I make sure that I live every day to make him proud, to make my Lord and Savior proud.
So going back to that high school record real quick, a couple of state championships, a 91-30 record, I think, in your combined stages at Whitehaven and wherever else you were. When you kind of got up to that next level, you obviously worked with Team Thad or Team Penny on the AAU level. Penny Hardaway brings you in, and Jerry Stackhouse brings you in. What did you learn from Jerry at Vanderbilt, and what did you learn from Penny at Memphis and those stops that you've had with him?
I think with Coach Stackhouse, I learned, the professionalism of the sport, and carrying yourself with professionalism, and understanding that, hey, Vanderbilt was a tremendous, prestigious academic institution. And so the professionalism that I learned there, also just how to be a pro, in every sense of the word, and he taught me so much about professionalism and how to be in rooms where, you feel comfortable talking to people that you might otherwise be around. And so the basketball part of itself took care, that was the obvious. I learned so much in terms of offense and how to, construct a practice and just the professionalism of having accountability for not just the players, but for coaches as well. And so, and then obviously coming back home and working with Penny, a dear friend of mine who, we've been competitors for so long, through high school, and then, having the chance to work with him, it goes without saying, we were able to win some championships together and have some really good moments. And, I can't tell you how much I learned from him in just the day-to-day activities of making sure that you cross every T and dot every I.
How much do you think those, call them grassroots levels, AAU, high school, how much did those levels really set the stage and prepare you for the college level? It allows you to kind of sharpen your skills because you're working with better players, you're working with the elitists of the elite, and you have to understand that they know a lot, even though, you have more to provide and give to them, but they're very cognizant of who they are in terms of student athletes and young people and what they want to accomplish in their basketball journey. And so I just learned the mentality of dealing with young people that are really, really good and understanding that, hey, they are really focused on who they want to be and what they want to get out of this game. What has that relationship with Penny been like for so many years? You guys coached against each other in high school. You've worked together as his assistant. What has that relationship been like over the years, and how is he going to help you kind of now, even in this journey as a head coach for the first time?
Just the day-to-day understanding of, he's a relentless competitor. He has a drive that's unmatched. And anytime you have an opportunity to work with a guy who was at the top of the NBA, the level that he played at, of the best, that does not go light for me. I understand that he taught me so many things that it pertains to just the daily activities of running a practice and understanding that, hey, you make sure that you put every ounce of your being into what you're doing. and don't take for granted the day and the opportunity that you had before you.
You mentioned a couple of times that you've come home to do this, you've come home to do that. You're actually from Illinois. So what is it about Memphis that makes it home for you outside of just, having spent years here as a coach?
I mean, they embrace me, obviously, coaching and having some success as it pertains to coaching in this city has helped a lot. But, I met my wife who's from here at college and undergrad, and so I was able to move here years ago, and I just felt the love of the city, and just the relationship that I have in terms of who I am and what I'm about, gritty, tough, hard-nosed, competitive, and so that city reflects a lot of who I am.
Yeah. What are some of the challenges that an HBCU faces that maybe a Memphis wouldn't face or a Vanderbilt wouldn't face?
I mean, resources, obviously finances and resources, and then also, you just got things that you just have to deal with that come with it. You got so many things that you could look at and say, hey, this is an obstacle, but I look at them as challenges, not obstacles. We're going to overcome them. We're going to win because not of the, what we don't have, but what we do have.
Yeah. How do you go about turning a program around, one that hasn't been winning the last couple of years, but we're solid kind of before then? How do you turn around and create a winning tradition for a LeMoyne-Owen?
Well, with anything, you got to have discipline. You got to have discipline, and you got to have people that understand that, hey, this is the vision, and this is what it's going to look like, and this is what it's going to sound like, and everybody has to have the same voice. You got to have people around you that's going to take care of you, that you're going to be able to trust and be loyal to you. And then, as of the discipline, you just got to have a wherewithal to know that, hey, man, we're not going to lose many games based upon our effort. We're going to play hard every night. We're going to compete. We may not play well offensively. We may not shoot the ball well that night, or we may not be scoring as we would like to. But we're never going to be out-toughed. We're never going to be out-effort. We're never going to be a team that's going to lack in having a competitive drive to go out and play as hard as we possibly can.
And just on a little bit more of a fun note, when you were at Vanderbilt, you were able to coach Scottie Pippen Jr.,
Yep.
Aaron Nesmith, who is going to the finals with the Pacers. What made some of those guys special?
Their work ethic, their attention to detail, their drive, their willingness to do the things that many other players were not willing to do. The late night shooting, the early morning in the gym. I can't tell you how many times I walk in the facility at 6, 7 in the morning, and Aaron Nesmith was in the gym, and then I leave out very late. Scottie was in the gym, and then I think what goes missing is Saban Lee was a player on that team who was the point guard the year before, and then he came in Stack comes in and he tells Scottie he's going to be the starting point guard, and Saban comes off the bench. But guess what? Saban gets drafted that very same year. So we have two guys on that team that gets drafted, and then obviously Scottie has had a tremendous career, most recently with the Grizzlies, and so it's just a tremendous account to Coach Stackhouse and his vision, how he utilized those guys and what he was able to teach them. And I think one thing that Stack really taught me was not the fact that you can get to the NBA, but how you can get to the NBA and have some staying power. And that was synonymous with what he taught our guys.
As you take on this challenge of being the head coach at LeMoyne-Owen, what do you want to be known for? What do you want LeMoyne-Owen to be known for?
Well, I mean, under my leadership, obviously we're going to do something that's going to reflect my faith. We're going to be a team that's going to have Bible study. We're going to be a team that's going to get out in the community and embrace, helping young people, helping our young kids in this community and beyond. And then also, they're going to have a team that's going to reflect toughness, pride, instill some drive and discipline, and play with a certain professionalism that's going to reflect, what our president is about. And then, all of those things we hope can equate to some success and some wins, because they're going to come and go. But the longevity of having the professionalism and having some integrity and knowing, how to carry yourself and being great men when they leave here, that's the most important for me.
Coach, wish you the best of luck here at LeMoyne-Owen.
Thank you, man. I appreciate your time. Thank you for having me.